After medical care, the second basic benefit is your entitlement to a weekly temporary disability benefits check. If you are out of work due to a work injury, especially for any prolonged period of time, this check becomes your paycheck. You will be paid 2/3 of the average weekly gross wages you earn for the 1-year period before your injury date. As an example, let's say that someone earned $26,000 during the 4 quarters before the quarter they were hurt in. You take that amount and divide it by 52 weeks, and you end up with a $500 average weekly wage, $26,000 divided by 52 weeks. If someone has a $500 average weekly wage, they would then get 2/3 of that amount, $333, for their weekly disability benefits payment. Why only 2/3? Because you don't pay any taxes on workers' compensation benefits. What the legislature was trying to do was to have that payment be fairly close to what your take-home pay would normally be after taxes, Social Security, those types of things are taken out. Usually that weekly benefit is going to be less than your take-home pay. And I think the reason they did that was to try to give employees the incentive to get back to work as soon as they can. In most cases, the weekly disability benefits will be paid until one of two things happens. First, if the doctor says that you have reached maximum medical improvement, that there's nothing more that they can do to get you better. That is a legal basis in South Carolina to cut off those benefits. Second, if you return to work, whether it be on light duty or full duty, that is a basis for cutting off the weekly benefits. You also need to be aware that there are different rules after 150 days have passed from the date when you were hurt. During the first 150 days, the insurance company has the right to unilaterally cut off your benefits if they have any reason whatsoever for doing it. After 150 days have passed, then it gets harder to legally cut those benefits off. The insurance company needs to either have the injured worker sign a form agreeing that the weekly benefits can be stopped, or the insurance company needs to get an order from the Workers' Compensation Commission allowing the benefits to be cut off. The third basic benefit that I want to talk about is the recovery for either permanent physical impairment or some form of permanent disability. This is where the settlement comes into play in a workers' compensation case. These two concepts, impairment and disability, are very different. Impairment is the effect that an injury has on a particular body part's use. For example, if I hurt my arm, I may have a 20% impairment of the arm. A rating would be assigned by the treating doctor, and the doctors have a guide they use to come up with those ratings. But I may not have any disability as a result of my arm injury. Disability is the effect on an injured worker's ability to either earn a living, to do any gainful employment, or to earn as much money as he was making before he got hurt. Using myself as an example, if I had a 20% impairment in my arm, I would have little to no disability because my job as a lawyer is not a physical job. However, if I was doing construction work, the result of that injury could be some degree of disability because I would not be able to do many of the physical tasks required of a construction worker. In this introductory video, I will primarily focus on a recovery for permanent impairment to a body part instead of permanent disability, because in at least 2/3 of our cases, our clients get a recovery for some degree of impairment to a body part instead of a recovery for some form of disability. Our goal is that you not have a disability case. We would like to see you get yourself well, recover as fully as you can, and then get you back to work, hopefully making the same amount of money, if not more, than you were making when you were hurt. That's in your best long-term interest. Unfortunately, there are many cases where people aren't able to do that. If you have a disability issue, we're going to aggressively pursue that claim to get the best recovery that we can for you. But if you can get back to work, that's great. How is a recovery for permanent impairment to a particular body part calculated under South Carolina law? This can leave many people scratching their heads. Under our system, every part of your body has been assigned a value of a number of weeks, from your pinky finger to your little toe, and for every body part in between, there is a set value for the body part. Here are a couple of examples to give you some idea of how this recovery works. Your pinky finger is valued at 20 weeks of benefits under the Workers' Compensation Act. That would mean that if, God forbid, somebody had their pinky cut off on the job and had a compensation rate of $500 a week, what they would get for the loss of that pinky would be 20 weeks times $500, or $10,000. Nobody in their right mind is going to sell a finger for $10,000, but that would be the recovery for permanent impairment in that example. The back, by way of comparison, is valued at 300 weeks of benefits in most cases. There are some rare situations where the back can be valued at 500 weeks, but in 95% or more back injury cases, the back is valued at 300 weeks. So as another example, let's take someone who had a back injury and they are assigned a 20% impairment of the spine by their doctor. We would then take 20% of 300 weeks, that comes out to 60 weeks. If we again use an example of someone who has a $500 compensation rate, you would then multiply 60 weeks by $500, and that would result in $30,000 being the base value of that assigned impairment rating. The reason I stress base value is that there is a lot of leeway in our ability to negotiate with the insurance company to increase the settlement figure for you. You are not stuck with whatever the value of the assigned impairment rating is, particularly the rating assigned by the doctor the insurance company has chosen for you. As your attorneys, we are able to negotiate the rating value up, and that is one of the things that we do for you in these cases. These examples give you some understanding about how you would calculate the base value of an assigned impairment rating. Some persons are limited to an impairment recovery even if they are disabled, because South Carolina law does not allow a disability recovery unless more than one body part has been adversely affected due to the work accident. Now, as far as a disability recovery is concerned, I won't go into great detail for this introductory video because most cases aren't going to involve disability, but there are two basic forms of permanent disability. Permanent partial disability occurs when someone's earning capacity has been reduced, but they are still able to do some work. Total and permanent disability is when there is no reasonably stable job market for the injured worker. You do not have to prove that you are absolutely helpless in order to recover total and permanent disability. What the Commission looks at is if there is a reasonable chance that you are going to be able to find employment. The value of a permanent disability claim is significantly higher than the value for recovery for impairment to a body part. If there are disability issues in your case, your attorney will explain how a disability recovery would be calculated under our work comp laws.